What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here with the quartering with the afternoon update. If you didn't notice, I'm trying to do a morning and an afternoon update. We'll see how that goes over. By the way, sorry if you were mini trolled by the title of this morning's video. It didn't really occur to me that only the first couple words of the video title showed on mobile phones. So while unintentionally it was a pretty spicy clickbaity title, it wasn't my intention. So I hope you still enjoyed it. So this afternoon, I'll be shooting this video, and then we'll have the Incredible Salt Mine tonight live at 7 Central. So make sure you stop by that show with Barry and Count Dankula and myself. I've noticed that this language around toxic fandom is really been adopted by the shill media. And now what we're seeing is kind of the next wave of attacks on the fans being that there's some links between Gamergate and Comicsgate in this case, and that is supposed to be bad. And we're seeing more and more articles out there like that. And I thought we would look at one particular trash piece. By the way, I'll link it in the description below as an archive. I see your feedback. I'm sorry I forgot to do that. But let's look at how toxic nerds are making Star Wars The Last Jedi criticism impossible. But we're not really going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about toxic nerds and that terminology, and then how it marries Gamergate and Comicsgate. So this is a trash piece on a trash website. Toxic nerds are making Star Wars The Last Jedi criticism impossible. There are valid critiques of The Last Jedi, but unfortunately the bigoted voices are dominating the debates. I think The Last Jedi was a bad movie. That's a personal opinion, with one with which other men and women of good will should feel comfortable disagreeing. Thanks for letting me disagree with you. I appreciate you giving me that disagreement privilege, Matthew. I also think the people that have been harassing Kelly Marie Tran, John Boyega, and Ryan Johnson, and other creative individuals who helped make Star Wars The Last Jedi are racist, sexist, and all-around deplorable humans. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Hey, you're gonna... Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. First of all, nobody was really harassing Kelly Marie Tran. She came out and said that she felt too much pressure to be on Instagram. She felt like she always had to be posting. So that narrative has been blown out of the water. John Boyega and Ryan Roundhead Johnson both inserted themselves in positions against the fans. So when you have someone like Ryan Johnson coming out attacking the fandom, or even a section of the fandom, and then that fandom responds in kind, you don't get to be the victim. It's one or the other. It's not like Ryan Roundhead Johnson was just sitting there not trying to link critics of his to evil Gamergaters. It's not like he totally didn't give as good as he got. Who cares who started it? All sides are participating in it, so he's not a victim. Before I get into the problem of the toxic nerd culture that has caused harassment of The Last Jedi alums like actress Tran, no proof. However, I'd like to explain precisely why I think the movie itself was an epic misfire. Don't care. What I'm interested here is narrative and spin. So if you didn't like Last Jedi, you're in the majority. But that brings us to the problem of toxic nerd culture. It's one that we've seen pop up before. The watershed moment, as Johnson himself observed in a tweet earlier this week, was the Gamergate scandal of 2014. On an occasion, feminist critics of video games and women in the gaming industry, in general, were singled out for harassment by thousands of gamers who deplored what they felt as an intrusion into the domain by left-wing social justice warriors. And that's probably fair. That's probably fair. They were particularly upset about attempts to criticize both games and the gaming industry as sexist. Well, because they weren't. With writer Jen Frank explaining in The Guardian, don't care what The Guardian has to say, unless I'm memeing on it. Then maybe I'll read it. This is effectively anyone who has ever questioned the patriarchal nature of the games industry or the limited, often objectifying depiction of women. Again, these are cartoons in video games, so who's really the victim here? I'm just curious. And again, to hear the word patriarchy in 2018 is like I don't know, like somebody saying rad or boss. I really thought that whatchamacallit candy bar was totally boss, man. You want to go to the store and buy some slap bracelets? Anyway. Of course, the backlash of pop culture nerd bigotry was hardly limited to Gamergate. When the trailer for Star Wars The Force Awakens revealed one of the protagonists would be an African-British actor, John Boyega, it led to a cry of an outrage by many Star Wars fans. Okay. In 2016, there was comparable outcry against the Ghostbusters reboot. Whoa. No, it wasn't even. First of all, it wasn't even close. The Ghostbusters reboot was hated universally by anyone who enjoyed the first Ghostbusters movie. You find me a fan of the original Ghostbusters out there screaming from the mountaintops about how great the reboot was, and I'll show you 10,000 people who disagree. The people that didn't like a stormtrooper being black was limited to a very, very small amount of people. But later replaced traditional all-male Ghostbusters cast with women. 1 year later, the so-called Comicsgate occurred when that seemed to be sparked by a picture of female comics writers at Marvel going out for milkshakes. Again, Comicsgate is about cramming ideology into comics. It is not about who draws them. It's about what they put in them. This is the same. Oh, my God. Like, who believes this shit? Do you think anybody cares if some purple-haired, armpit-haired, 400-pound woman drew the last series of Cable, was involved in the last series of Cable instead of John Malin, and was just really good? No, they wouldn't care. If the book's good, people like the book. So now we'll get to the part where they link, of course, Comicsgate and Gamergate. It's not difficult, or it isn't difficult to draw a straight line from Gamergate to Comicsgate, and the Ghostbusters backlash to the racist and sexist harassment of Tran, and which drove her offline altogether. That is a lie. On each of these occasions, a clear pattern of behavior. 1. Some fans felt outraged that pop culture spaces that they believed should be specifically white and male. Whoa! 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 Citation, please. I haven't seen any of that, and I've been involved in at least the Comicsgate movement since its inception. Whether mediums like video games, comic books, or specific franchises like Star Wars and Ghostbusters had been compromised by the inclusion of people who weren't. That's wrong. In order to reclaim these spaces for straight white men, they join like-minded people online and attempt to take down their properties by either A, claiming that their outrage isn't because of racism and sexism. You know why people claim that? You know why people say that? You know why people say, some of my best friends are black? It's because idiots like you write articles like this accusing people of it. And then you're like, whoa, why are you acting so guilty, bro? Why are you so guilty, bruh? It's not like there are 1,000 articles calling anyone who doesn't like Star Wars: The Last Jedi a bigot. Anyway, being explicit in the fact that their motivations are racist and sexist, usually by harassing their targets with slurs and threats. Now, we're talking about probably less than 100 people worldwide for B. And the article, of course, takes no liberties to prove any of it, just says it, Sometimes they're A and B. B pretty much proves the lie in A. Okay, sure. That's all complete phooey. They act like the injured party when they are criticized for their behavior. This point is absolutely crucial to understand. They do not perceive of themselves as bullies or bigots, but rather pose as aggrieved parties. In best case scenarios, it's because they claim that something they've loved all their life has been taken away from them. In the worst case scenarios, it's because they claim that pop culture is being used to attack them as straight white men. Oh my God. No, this again is demonstrably false, okay? Where can you go through any one of my 200 videos and find me saying that? Find me saying, gosh, golly, they're just attacking me as a straight white man. No, people aren't out there saying that. People take umbrage not with the recreation of their beloved properties or different directions taken. It's when they are bad, right? Do you think anybody would have cared if the Ghostbusters reboot was good? That it was women? No, the movie sucked. And and they ruined a beloved franchise. Okay? It was a bad movie. They took a pure, delicate flower like the Ghostbusters franchise and completely co-opted it and made a terrible movie out of it too, forever leaving a stain on the Ghostbusters franchise, just like The Last Jedi will forever be a stain in the Star Wars franchise. Just to be clear, not all of this toxic nerd entitlement is based on racism or sexism. Really, it's just simply silly like Suicide Squad fans who complained about the critics on Rotten Tomatoes giving their beloved film a low score. Other times it's more tragic, like George Lucas selling the Star Wars franchise to Disney because the fan community's vitriol toward him meant it wasn't fun for him to make movies anymore. Yeah, can you give me a citation for that as well? Maybe the guy just, was a billionaire and wanted to enjoy life. Maybe. Maybe he had felt that he accomplished everything he needed to accomplish with the franchise. At the same time, it's important for us to note that because pop culture has become a secular religion or tangential political background in our society, thanks to you fuckers, by the way, people are going to impart the same prejudice they bring to those other realms to the cultural spheres. To an extent, this is unavoidable, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't work to combat it. 3 methods come to mind. It must be accepted that content creators, whether they are writers, directors, actors, producers, developers, or lowly intern who gets a coffee, have the right to basic respect afforded to all other people. I agree. I agree with you. Of course, you're going to then go and imply that, even though Rian Johnson attacks the fandom, we're the ones that are the bad guys. I will agree with you there. The media needs to cover these issues more thoroughly. No, it doesn't. As Johnson observed in a different tweet discussing Gamergate, I think it was covered heavily, but in a very niche corner of the media. No, the media doesn't need to cover it. It already does. 3, nerds as a rule need to remember where they came from. Whoa! This sounds like you're telling me that we're getting uppity. Is that what you're saying? That nerds are getting uppity? I'm going to close the article on the last point as a nerd myself. Well, if you say you are. I remember being scorned as a child for my various obsessions. One of the things that gave me comfort was the knowledge that according to the archetypes that existed throughout media, I was at very least someone worthy of sympathy. Oh my God, nobody thinks like that. The archetype is gone now, or at best dying. When Ghostbusters reboot turned its villain into a sexist nerd stereotype, they weren't doing it to insult their fans. Are you sure? Are you sure? Have you ever looked at Paul Feig on Twitter? Have you ever? Didn't you notice that Melissa McCarthy hated the film and wasn't out there really promoting it at all because she knew it was terrible? In many years, she'll go back and admit that she regrets doing that film. I'm certain of it. Considering that I liked the Ghostbusters reboot, now we know. You have no idea of what is good or what is entertaining. You are at best a basic bitch when it comes to movies. And I appreciate your attempted hit piece here. I hope all of you out there enjoyed it. I'm probably going to take the weekend off if you made it all the way to the end. And I hope you have a great weekend too. And we'll see you again bright and early on Monday.